But here we are, February 21st, 2007 is when you wrote this. Welcome back, by the way. How is Sacramento? Go Kings?
Very good. Kings are not playing right now.
No.
They are the Sacramento A's.
That's right. The A's are a big deal over there.
They finally won a game or two.
Well, they're the Moneyball team. We all remember that movie.
It's interesting. Sacramento Bee has no LA-related sports reporting. No Dodgers.
Nope.
And
no, that you can thank Shaquille O'Neal for that. Shaquille O'Neal, when they won the third title in LA in a row, when we three-peated,
that was it, huh?
He came out and said the new capital of California is Los Angeles, and called them the Sacramento Queens.
Oh no!
And ever since that statement, Sacramento and LA have had a bit of a city rivalry. And I have to say, Sacramento's a lot bigger than it used to be. Congratulations! There's a lot of people out there now. It used to be, when I was growing up, you went out there, it was just freeway.
No, it's quite a city. My family is grouped around in that area, and we had a very significant time together. For me, it meant a lot.
Good. I mean, if you want to understand what's important, you have to ask somebody who's been around a while. You've been around the block once or twice. And if family is that important to you, then anybody who invests in their family is a wealthy man or woman. Sorry,
one daughter turning 70, two daughters celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary, and one her birthday, and one daughter and her daughter, my granddaughter, just bought a new house. And we celebrated that. And my grandson, who is a doctor, is finishing his residency tomorrow.
Wow.
And we celebrated that. So everything at one time. Wow. It was quite a party.
Wow.
It was quite a. And then of course, my daughter-in-law getting sworn in as a lawyer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then we saw the Hawaiian lei, and saw you showed me the picture of everybody around. Incidentally, if you're on Cass's Facebook, check out, we're posting a pointed reflection from the past each week. And if you'd like to, you can leave a comment, or if you have Cass's number, go ahead and text him. He loves comments. So today, a pointed reflection with a very gripping title. Shall I leave it to you?
Yes, it's terrorized by terror. It's a reflection on what's been going on, the turmoil and the chaos in LA, that I'm going to comment on in a minute.
Good. I hope you feel free here, that you are not under any shackles.
It's a safe zone here.
I mean, it's YouTube.
It's safe from ICE. I'm an immigrant, you know.
Yes, I understand. So probably not. But I would say is just stay away from the Home Depots and you should be fine.
Well, if at all possible, I stay away.
I think if you're undocumented, this is a time to be a little bit cautious. But LA has always been a what do you call it, a safety city, or?
Well, let me put it this way. When the early colonists landed in Plymouth Rock, I don't think they had visas or documents either.
No. Batches?
So we have to be...
We don't need no stinking batches.
We have to be aware that we all owe our life to those who came ahead of us, including our famous President Trump, whose grandfather came from Germany.
Okay.
Now, terrorized by terror is a reflection on Psalm 91, verse 5, that says, "You will not fear the terror of the night, or the arrow that flies by day, or the pestilence that stalks in darkness, or the destruction that wastes at noonday." That's from Psalm 91.
So,
the Lord...
Sometimes it's so easy to understand the concept, but applying it is so difficult when you're in the middle of it. especially for us young Christians.
It's a celebration of our connection to God in faith. You who live in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. And then he says, you will not fear the terror.
So let me grasp this for a second. You said that not fearing is a way to really show God your love.
Well,
can you just dig into that for a second? Because I think that's pretty deep.
Well,
just not being afraid is a way to show God.
Not fearing is an experience of security in the shelter of God. Okay? I told you, I think last time I came across a statement, the atheism of fear.
Yeah, but it applies so much better when it's next to this.
Yeah. So what I wrote here, I read again today, I thought, oh my God, it applies to this week, what's been happening in Los Angeles, throughout the country. That the word terror has been used so many times since 9/11. You remember 9/11? Since 9/11, everything we do and say anymore seems to be controlled and overshadowed by terror. We are literally being terrorized by our own fears and reactions to terror. Which is worse, the original source of terror or our own overreaction to it?
I think the overreaction to it is equal to the original source. I would vary to compare it to, metaphorically, to an earthquake that is a mild original earthquake, but then the aftershock hits and it's jolting.
And the terror that it creates. I had a minister who refused to move to LA, to our area, because his wife was scared of earthquakes. So kept them away. That was 15 years ago.
I'm scared of tornadoes. You will not catch me living in the middle of the country.
But they laugh at us because they think we are living in danger, not them.
Yes.
Now, the problem with terror is that it is manipulated and exploited to control our lives. We are seeing this happen today, I'm sorry to say, by our politicians, our president.
Yes, it is. I've been keeping, I choose the Daily Show as my update news source.
Okay.
Because it has a fun spin on some pretty scary stuff.
Yeah.
I don't like it too heavy. I just want the information. If you can make it a little comical, it helps me. Helps the osmosis. So I've been seeing some stuff that I just never thought I'd see. Just never thought I'd see it.
Such as what?
What I think is beautiful is I've started to see that people are uniting against evil. But I didn't think I'd see it.
Well, you're seeing what
they're not chanting USA, USA. They're chanting God is good. They're chanting, we shall overcome. They're chanting different things that are more people-oriented and more God-oriented and less division-oriented, because politics has just divided us completely now.
And what has happened is that in the fourth paragraph, I say, I am afraid we have turned into a nation terrorized by terror. Or even worse, we have become a nation that is capitalizing on the theme of terror to advance partisan interests.
Did you write this yesterday?
Yeah. Think of the drug industry, for example. Ask your doctor. It's constantly being made by all pervasive ads urged on us to make pushing all kinds of drug for treatment of diseases. And also, one could spend all day pursuing these ads. Or, politically speaking, it is making us safe from the enemy, whoever the enemy is.
Okay.
And the enemy 50 years ago was concentrated in the Soviet system.
Yes. Cold War.
Today, the enemy is us.
Yes.
It's within
The enemy
ourselves.
is within. The call is coming from inside the house. Get out.
So we are being turned against ourselves. Political exploitation of terror. And I think a prime example of that is what happened this week in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
What was happening would have been easily controlled by local forces, but immediately our president ordered federal troops because he wanted that. He wanted the publicity of looking like he was controlling terror, but he was actually fomenting it.
Good word usage.
Okay, fomenting it, and that is unconscionable. And the people who are being demonized are people who are immigrants, and legal as well as illegal immigrants are being swept up in the nets being cast out there. So there's terror. Children don't want to go to school because they're afraid by the time they get home, their parents will be taken away. This is America. I
wouldn't leave if I thought my parents were going to be taken away. I wouldn't go to school either.
Yeah, but how long can you stay away? So it is unfortunate that terror is being manipulated and exploited for political purposes. This morning I woke up thinking, why didn't Trump send in the troops January 6th?
I think we all know the answer to that.
It wasn't. It was not just the building; it was the whole capital, the capital of the United States, being overrun. Police were being overrun, but he sat there staring at the TV. I'm sharing my consternation about this because this is not America. This is not the way to make America great again. This is the way to make America afraid again.
Well, fear does sell in America and capitalism. It has been its primary weapon of profit for many, many years.
Yeah.
And I know there was another time, and I'm not going to split things up by Democrat and Republican. I'm tired of being divided. This nation is not divided.
Yeah.
We love each other, some of us, and everybody will catch up. But there was a president in the middle of, 9/11 reading a book to children, and he was just sat there. He wasn't sure what to do, and I'm wondering if that's the way our current president felt. He just didn't know what to do.
Well, in January 6th, he didn't know what to do.
Right.
And now he is using his power to intimidate anyone who doesn't like him, not only opposes him, but doesn't like him. I kept thinking if this broadcast right here could be used as a means of turning against us.
Yes, that's why we do it.
Okay, now we
pick a side.
In a police state, that's what would happen. And we're turning into a police state. However, the message today is don't be terrorized by terror. We are able to rise above all this.
And we have.
Okay.
Many times. Many.
Well, we have. And this is what the psalmist is saying. You who live in the shadow of the Almighty will abide there, will say to the Lord, my refuge and my strength. We have a source of security that goes beyond the physical world in which we live. If we do not latch on to that source of power and strength and comfort and shelter, we will be very vulnerable and lose it very easily.
Yes.
And this is my message to our listeners today. If you want to be able to look beyond this and say, how am I going to survive even though things are getting closer to me, is by staying in the shelter that God has provided for you. There's a saying in the Psalms, hiding in the rock, the shadow of the rock. I learned what that is.
Okay.
In 95, when I was Sinai Desert, going to St. Catherine's Monastery, which is an old Greek monastery from the 5th century, in the Sinai, at the shadow of Mount Sinai, which is where Moses received the commandments. We spent overnight on the way, walking in the desert to get the feel. It was very hot, no shadow. The only place where there was a shadow was in the cracks in the rocks, these huge cracks.
Yep.
You'd go and you sit in that shadow. Hopefully a scorpion didn't bite your rear end, but that's where the shadow was. Okay. That's what he's talking about. And I love that. In a land where shadows are hard to find, I think we're getting to be to that kind of a country. Hard to find the shadows, but our faith in God, in Christ, it's in faith. It's not by sight, but by faith we walk. We will not be overcome by these events. Okay?
There's so many ways to see change going on right now, and I just, I can veer into, we had a conversation, a friend of mine and I, about AI last night, about how whatever's left of the middle class will be completely obliterated by artificial intelligence. And, what we've already gone through, the homelessness and everything increasing, and now what we're going through in this administration, in the office. And it just seems like we're really being tested. And I like the title of this. It keeps pounding in my mind over and over. Don't be terrorized by the terror.
Well,
don't be terrorized by the thought of it.
This is what tyrants want. They want people to be terrorized by terror, to be neutralized, paralyzed by terror.
Okay.
So they will not do anything. Are we coming to that point in America?
Oh,
I don't think so.
Well,
there's a lot of protest.
There's a lot of people who don't agree.
They don't agree, and they are beginning to take to the streets.
Let me ask you a genuine question as somebody who has seen a few things in their lifetime. Does it seem like the lack of American unity is now being brought out by a little dissension among the ranks? Is it actually good for our country? Is this administration's 4 years going to be what we needed to get up off our butts and get back out?
No, on the opposite. Again? This administration is exploiting the divisions for their own purposes.
But isn't it going to backfire? Won't it just...
It will backfire, of course.
It'll unify people.
It will, but sooner or later it will. I hope sooner than later.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure we're all going the same direction.
I was listening to a commentator the other day who said, our president is acting out of fear that he's losing the grip on things. The Senate may not approve his big, beautiful
bill.
I spell it otherwise. And
the BBS.
So, and then here in Los Angeles, I think he's afraid of LA because California leads the country in a lot of things.
And it's a very, very blue state.
Yeah. So he wants to neutralize this. He wants to burn this state down. But the message is, the Lord is my shepherd, as the 23rd Psalm says. I shall not want anything. I shall not want to be in need of anything. You prepare a table before me in the midst of my enemies. My cup runneth over.
I know it's one of the most popular, things anybody ever hears, but when you really break down these Psalms, and I learned that it came from Psalmoi. I did a little Greek translation for you at Bible study on Friday. I started in honor of Cass. Here's a Greek word in a translation into English. That's how I started the Bible study.
What's the translation?
Well, Psalmoi and words accompanying music.
Yeah, it has to do with music.
Yeah. So, and then there was a couple conjugations of it.
Good for you.
Yeah, no, I've taught well.
That's great.
But the point of this is that I see, and then I go back to another. If you don't watch all these pointed reflections, we're still good. If you don't watch these pointed reflections, you won't catch up. But I am a weed. I am not a flower. I have accepted that I'm a weed and I grow. And if you don't accept who you are and just kind of thrust yourself forward into this whole concept of letting go, you're just going to hold onto the reins too tight and you're never going to get it.
That's right.
You're just never going to get it until you let go for 5 seconds and you see the power and then you go, oh. And I've been at this for a year now. And you told me in this podcast that fear is actually, showing God how weak you are. And it just, and I needed to hear that.
Fear is an expression of atheism. No God. But if you have a God, you will pray with the psalmist, the Lord is my shepherd.
So I'm part Jew, part Christian, and part atheist.
Okay.
That's a little hard to accept for me.
You're a student of life. You're growing. You who live in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. There you have it, a choice between terror and trust. Which will it be with us? I say it easily, but I wonder if I am really pushed to the wall, what I will do. I pray I'll have the strength to keep trusting and not give up. But it's not easy.
Well, unfortunately, every time that something happens, I remember something that I've heard, probably from you. But the second you try to give up, it's like God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. Little things like that pop into your head, and you realize maybe the country's the same way. Maybe God doesn't give the country anything it can't handle. But then again, I just don't want to make sure there's no Chaldeans coming. I want to make sure I'm not on a watchtower going,
if you're falling off the cliff, you'll always catch onto a twig. You know the story of the man who was falling, latched onto the twig?
No, but I'm about to.
Yeah. He says, help, help, help. And nothing happened. And he said, my God, help. And God says, yes, my son. Can I help you? He says, help me. He says, okay, let go. Let go. He says, anybody else up there? Oh boy, we don't know how to let go, do we?
I think there's a really big room for a Christian comic who can do it right. I think if you really know your stuff. We've seen a couple guys do it. Erica sent me a post of a guy who was doing the different hand raises that Christians do. He went through some fun. He's like light bulbs and Mufasa and pointing at God and high fives and
bye bye.
Yeah, but I think
goodbye God. We're going to Bodhi. Yeah,
I've learned too much from you. Just so much.
Oh,
it's exciting.
Well,
but I just really feel like the letting go part is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
And since we don't need to answer a question from Reddit this week because talking about ICE in LA and all this other stuff, at one point do you let go and let God? And I have been repeating. I actually might get it tattooed to my arm to remind myself. I think it is the hardest lesson we can learn as humans.
It is. It is because we don't want to let go. We want to be in control. And letting go means you're losing control. And you discover at that point you've got resources you did not know you had.
It's interesting to me how you point out that somebody said that Trump is acting out of fear because he's losing his grip because he's getting older. And that's exactly his whole basis on Biden.
Exactly.
And now he's in the middle of it too.
I couldn't believe it. They showed a clip when he was going up the steps of a plane. He tripped and he began to fall, and they hung on to the handrail. Actual video of it reminded me of Biden. We all come to that point, buddy. Buddy meaning our famed president. We look for the fountain of youth, but nobody's been able to find it yet.
No.
The whole issue here in America is he has latched on to the enemy, which is the immigrant. And we exist between a nation of immigrants and a nation being flooded by immigrants. So what do? He's trying to shut the door completely. You do that, you're shutting the doors to your own life, to your own home. So it has to be an administration that has empathy for those who have come, who've proven themselves to be good citizens. And over the many years, 15, 20 years, people who've been here 15, 20 years with children are being grabbed and taken. Wait a minute. That's where I say I get off the boat.
It's a bit Gestapo.
People like that, there should have been immigration reform to allow them to stay.
Yes.
Because they are the fabric of life today. They are woven into us. We are part of it.
There's I don't want to assimilate this to something mundane, but I have it's in my head. We're doing the Amazon affiliate program, right? And they say if you don't make a sale, 3 sales in 180 days, they're going to revoke your membership. And you won't be able to do the affiliate program for Amazon anymore. And I thought the same thing about the immigrants. Like, hey, you have 180 days to work at least 3. And if you can get 3 8-hour days in, feel free to, stay.
Hey,
I'm just saying there should be a reward. It shouldn't be negative reinforcement. It has never worked.
But
never, ever, never.
The Episcopal bishop who preached a sermon at his inauguration in the cathedral in Washington, D.C., who appealed to him directly. He was sitting there. He said, compassion, empathy, and mercy. We need that from our president. And he thought that was a very weak message.
Correct.
Which is very, to me, eye-opening. That to him is weakness. But on the contrary, it is strength. When you act out of mercy, you're not acting out of weakness, you're acting out of compassion, empathy. And there should be a point at which the legal demands of the law must be tempered by the demands of our national conscience to allow those who are really in need to stay in this country. This is America.
Boy, I wish we had you on one of those TV shows.
If it were today, I would be deported. I came on a student visa and stayed, and one summer I worked without knowing I had to have a license to work. And at my hearing for citizenship hearing, the man caught it. He said, I said, I couldn't go back to my country. I had to do something between semesters. He says, okay, there was mercy.
Yes.
If that hadn't been there, I would have been deported. This is 50 years ago. So if America isn't going to have a president who understands this, we're in trouble. And
well, we're in trouble for 3 years.
If he's listening to me, God bless you, brother. You need to learn this lesson.
And you know what? Who doesn't need to learn a new lesson?
We all do. At my age, I still do. That's this lesson for today.
That's fantastic.
Blessings.
I like how relatable it is.
Blessings.
I love how relatable this is, and I really appreciate you speaking your mind, because it's not easy to speak up and do it in a constructive way. It's easy to break people down.
Yeah, well, I'm being an American.
Well,
this is America.
I'm proud to back you up.
Hey, okay.
That's what I did.
Send in the Marines.
No.
Army.
Thank you.
I knew you'd say that.
I'm not a Marine. I don't walk. I'm Army. We come in Apache helicopters and Blackhawks. But yep.
Over hill, over vale, we have here the dusty trail.
And the caissons go rolling along. Yep.